Yeah.
No, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. I recognize a couple of names here that are signed in. Mr. Trion, Cortopassi, Molaroni. I see several names here that we know. Thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it. Today, we're just going to basically touch on a mortar bed shower system, or as we decided to call it, playing in the mud. You know, Dave's kind of got some mortar mixed up here. I'll jump around the back and get out of the way of the screen here, and Dave will kind of take us down the path of doing a old-fashioned or a traditional mortar bed shower situation. Let's get started, Dave.
Okay. Good morning.
All right, what do we got here?
So first of all, we got our traditional full mortar bed shower, or a water in, water out system, as a lot of guys will call that. We got the wood frame construction, no backer board on. I've got 3 2x4s stacked up on top of each other for residential curb. It could be, you know, cement block curb too, or whichever you want to use for that.
So most parts of the country, this is pretty standard for a residential.
Pretty standard
for a shower, yeah. Now, we like to say, just while we're doing, just note the curb here is not treated plywood, or not treated
It's
wood
not
at
treated
all.
plywood. Nope, doesn't need to be treated plywood.
So we don't want to, you want dry, okay?
So first of all, in this assembly, you're going to have your standard clamping ring, 3-piece clamping ring drain that your plumber typically would install. Has a clamping ring and then a strainer that screws into the clamping ring.
Be it plastic or
plastic,
metal,
ABS,
whatever.
PVC, could be cast iron also.
Yeah, okay.
First, our first step would be pre-slope. We need to have a pre-slope in this system.
Right.
It's a 1/4 inch per foot code required pre-slope that will go from the drain to your longest length. That would be a 1/4 inch per foot there, and then level that pre-slope off around the perimeter.
And that's measuring from the corners, not the side to
Measure
corner.
from the corner,
the
exactly.
furthest point.
For the furthest point, that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
As you can see, I pre-did this for save time. You cannot install the pan liner on top of a fresh pre-slope, because if you dent that and you put a bird bath in that,
just from working
on it, yeah. So you're probably going to want to pour that one day, come back the next day, do your pan liner.
Pretty typical.
Yep. Okay. So again, I have a cured, smooth pre-slope, nothing sharp in that would possibly poke through the pan liner.
Oh, knock it down with a block or something.
Knock it down with a block, so just
okay.
Sure it's smooth. Now, if you want to speed this process up, Noble actually has a pre-slope. Okay. It's called Pro Slope. Okay, as you can see, it has the 1/4 inch pre-slope built into that. It's just a foam with a high compression cardboard on top of that. It's a loose laid. We have several different sizes and shims to go along with it. You're going to basically cut it for the size that you want, and then you're just going to loose lay it in to the shower area.
Okay, and just to be clear, this would be going on top of a flat substrate, not on top of a pre-slope mortar bed.
That's correct. It's going to take the place of that mortar pre-slope.
So it's saving you the time that it takes to do that pre-slope, and in a lot of cases, the return trip while you're waiting for it to dry. So
that's correct.
Kind of do that on one shot and then continue right on.
One shot, I could do my liner and flood test it the same day.
Okay.
Exactly. But in this case, we're showing the mud pre-slope.
Yep. Which is probably why we named this discussion what we did, playing with mud, right?
Playing in the mud.
Otherwise, we'd be playing with Pro Slope.
Okay. So now that I have a cured 1/4 inch per foot pre-slope, I'm ready for my pan liner.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to today we're going to work with the Chloraloid pan liner. We have PVC pan liner or Chloraloid. Now I'll talk about the differences between the two. I know there's hot mop out there, lead pans, copper pans that kind of real old school. Yep. But today we're going to be using the pan liner. Okay. So the difference between the Chloraloid, which we've had around since 1968, yep. Same exact product, and the PVC pan liner is, PVC pan liner has plasticizers in it. That plasticizers keeps it flexible.
Right.
Over time, the plasticizers will gas off. If you open up the pan liner, you smell it, and you can smell the plasticizers on the vinyl. So the plasticizer is gassing off, and over time it will get brittle on you. So that's why it has a 10-year warranty. Where the Chloraloid does not have plasticizers in that, so it's always going to stay flexible. Okay. So it has a lifetime warranty.
Okay.
Okay. the other difference between the two is the PVC does not hold a fold like the Chloraloid does.
Okay.
So if you try to pre-fold it,
Why don't you throw that on the
I'll
curve?
throw it on
Maybe-
here
maybe
so you
it'll
can see
show it
that.
better.
Look
Yeah,
at
there
it,
you
yeah.
go.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so it's just not really taking a crease.
Yeah, it's not taking a crease. It just kind of stays floppy,
Very rubbery.
very rubbery. Mhm.
Okay.
Where the Chloraloid that I tooled earlier, as you can see, holds a nice sharp crease, stays there.
Just do another crease there, just someplace new, just so no one thinks we're cheating. So basically
Take a margin trowel,
blading it.
just blade it.
Okay, there you go.
Again, as you can see, it holds a nice crease.
Right, so that really eliminates the radius that you would get from a horizontal to vertical transition, and really probably the concern you might have loading it up with mortar that could possibly rip out
It does.
because it's not tight to the vertical horizontal.
It does. It makes the installation much easier. So I've got a piece of Chloraloid that I pre-cut and pre-folded,
Okay,
and I dry fit before to make sure it fit. So as you can see, I could fold it up to a nice just pan.
right.
Okay.
Right,
And
and just to point out, I think this is probably one of the more important things that you really recommend people do is instead of throwing this in here in a giant piece and rustling it around like a piece of carpet in a room that it doesn't fit in, pre-folding it, pre-measuring it, pre-folding it, and basically getting it so it fits the size, dropping it into place just makes life easier.
Yeah. So like I said, I pre-fold, pre-cut it, and I just dry fit it in.
Right.
As you can see, I've assured it fit on
Yeah.
this.
Commercially, you could probably do that in advance and just basically have it all pre-folded
You
and
could.
throw one in every single room ready to go.
Like one guy could go through, measure, pre-fold them, ready to go.
Yep.
For
Nice.
the installation. So now that I assured my fit, okay.
Yep.
I'm ready to install my pan. First of all, I'm going to want to put a bead of sealant on my clamping ring.
Right.
Not only will I have a chemical seal and a mechanical seal.
Okay.
So I'll take our 250 sealant.
Yep. 150 sealant.
Or 150 sealant. 150 sealant, and I will put a continuous bead on the clamping ring.
Okay, and that's going underneath of the membrane, really to seal the membrane to the lower drain body.
That's correct.
In the event that the pipe backs up or something, the water can't escape under the liner.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. You don't need to do too much.
Take that from you.
Yep. Mhm. So now I'm ready to drop the pan in.
Let me slide that on out of the way so I don't step in
So
it.
I'll go ahead and I'll drop the pan in. It's much easier to put the sealant on before the pan goes in.
And I noticed you left the bolt heads in the drain.
I left the bolt heads in the drain, so we can come back later and we can cut those bolt heads.
Okay.
So first of all, I'm going to do my upturns.
Okay.
I could either tie in my drain right now or do my upturns. Really doesn't matter the sequence of that. So let's do the upturns first. Okay. So on the back wall here, as you can see, I have folded corners.
Yep.
So I fold my corners. There's no need to do an inside corner that could possibly leak. We know a folded corner is a bulletproof.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I have 3 layers of Chloroid back here.
So it's 40 mils
So
a
40
layer.
mil,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
pushing 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah. So I've got some buildup back here.
Okay.
So with my backer board, with that buildup, I'll have to either first strip the backer board out or notch my stud out to accommodate for that buildup.
Or just with Sawzall or a chisel, just
Sawzall,
knock
whatever,
down
yep.
1/8 of an inch. Okay.
Commonly, the guys will just use some first strips on the studs.
Just to bring the
It's an
board
extra
out.
step.
Yep.
But the way I like to do it is I will notch or frame in my stud at the corner so I can tuck the fold in.
Okay.
So there's no buildup. It's much
So
easier.
you're just kind of pulling that on
Pull
through.
that in through. Yep. See, as you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see that there's
Yep.
no buildup.
Yep. Just single layer both sides
Yep.
now.
Mhm. The fold still has slope in there, so the water will never pour out of that.
Right.
It'll
Okay.
always weep out. So,
All right.
now I'll go ahead and I'll get that in. See that nice tight fold.
Yep.
Now I have a upturn that's 3 inches above the curb, which is code required.
Yep.
Okay. And I've added another 1/2 inch on my upturn just to accommodate for a staple.
At that point, what
Yeah.
difference does it make,
Yeah.
right?
Throw a staple in there to hold it.
Pull this one through for you.
Yep. Mhm.
All right.
Okay. Then I'll just.
So again, you're keeping all the fasteners or the staple heads up the upper edge,
That's
basically
correct.
up 1
Yep.
inch.
And I'll go ahead and staple top up, all
This
the way
could be a
down.
staple, it could be a roofing nail.
Correct. Yeah.
Just
Again, make sure that you stay 3 inches above the curb with every fastener you use.
up and again, nice tight to the
Nice and
wall.
tight to the,
Okay.
see how nice and tight that is to the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and do the curb. So I've left enough Chloraloid to go out to the, over the curb, out to the dry space.
Okay.
Okay. You don't want to just end it
So
on
you're
the top of
wrapping
the
it
curb.
all the way
You're
over.
wrapping around the top of the curb. You're going to
Okay.
protect it. Now in this case, I put my folds under the curb membrane and would be under my curb mud.
Okay.
So I don't have buildup on my sides.
Okay.
I just did a fold here.
Yep.
Now,
And then
but-
cut it down to the curb height.
Now before I do this though, I'm going to want to make sure that I seal in those folds.
Okay.
I'm going to use either Nobleflex 100 or 150 sealant
Yep.
to seal those together.
So the Nobleflex 100 is kind of a solvent cement,
It's a
much
solvent
like
cement,
PVC
yep.
pipe cement, but made for CPE.
So I'm adding this in here to make basically all one piece of membrane then.
Okay.
And I'm going to wrap that around.
That just gives you, again, nice tight corner and seals off that corner to make sure the water can't get up in there and migrate
That's correct.
up and around.
With an Nobleflex 100, it just takes a couple seconds there to bond up, and it actually welds the Chloraloid. Now, if you're using PVC, you're going to use the PVC cement.
Right.
The same thing.
Okay.
Okay, now that I've got those sealed, I have a watertight corner.
Right.
Okay.
And it's just worth noting,
Again-
you're not stapling the membrane to the inside of the curb there.
Not inside the curb. You want to, the only time you want to staple that is going to be, make sure it's tucked on the outside.
Okay. So I mean, that's really a critical thing, is to make sure that this membrane is tight to the sidewalls and the floor, so we don't
Correct.
have that radius in there, so that, you know, for expansion or contraction
Mm-hmm.
or shrinkage or anything, so it doesn't really pull that membrane tight and possibly rip out under the mortar bed.
Correct.
Okay.
So now I can go ahead and I can tie in my clamping ring drain to my. Okay. Mhm. Okay, so few people have
Okay.
missed the opening on that. So I want to talk, I'll go back and talk about PVC and Chloraloid again.
Okay.
PVC versus Chloraloid. So PVC pan liners has plasticizers in that keeps it flexible,
Otherwise, it'd be like a plastic pipe.
like a plastic pipe. Over time, the plasticizers gas off out of that, and it can get brittle. As you open up the package, you can smell that.
Right.
That's plasticizers gassing off. The other thing with PVC, it does not hold a fold. So it's
Okay.
got this kind of floppy noodle in there, and it's hard to tuck it.
Right. That's like for old guys like us, the old like STP or Armor All that keeps your dashboards or your Landau tops of your car from drying out and cracking.
Yeah.
That's kind of PVC.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. Chloraloid, chlorinated polyethylene, does not have plasticizers in it. It doesn't require it. It stays flexible virtually forever.
Right.
So that's why it has a lifetime warranty on
Okay.
that. Yep. The other thing with that is it holds a fold. As you can see, I pre-folded it. It holds a nice tight fold. As you can see in this installation, how nice and tight that fold is up
Right.
against the studded wall, where PVC is just kind of a floppy
Right.
noodle in there.
So,
So-
and that goes back to, again, I don't know where everybody got lost in the webinar, but that gives us our nice tight corners here from
That's correct.
the horizontal to vertical transitions.
Okay.
Okay.
And then of course we did a pre-soap under the pan liner. We did a 1/4 inch per foot code required pre-slope from the drain to the farthest corner, and then leveled that out. So the system, the reason we have that in the system is when water goes through the final mortar bed, it hits this pre-slope, and water then will weep down to the drain, keeps the system dried out.
Okay.
Otherwise, water is just going to stay on a flat surface.
Right.
It's waterproof, but then it's just going to have that mucky, moldy smell to it without a pre-slope.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah,
Okay.
this is being recorded, and we will basically send out an updated version of this to everybody at the time. We apologize for the technical difficulties starting out here, but hopefully we got it back on track now. So we're just going to kind of continue where we're at right now, where the pan is installed on top of the pre-slope, like Dave said. We've got a drain underneath here. The bolt heads are in there. You put a bead of sealant underneath to make sure the membrane is bonded to the lower drain body. We've wrapped the curb. We've got our corners tucked in here nice and tight. And I think we're ready to continue on.
Okay. So we're ready to go ahead and tie our drain into our Chloraloid.
Yep.
So I let the bolts in, okay, as you can see.
Yep.
I just push them over there and I know right where they're located then. Okay. I'll just take a knife and I'll X on the top of the bolt, push it through.
Pop it through, okay. That's probably easier than trying to find the bolts in an hour from now.
It is. Yeah, otherwise, if I don't leave the bolts in, I cut that out. I'm, again, trying to find it. If I poke a hole in the wrong spot, I've ruined the pan.
Yep, the hole's no bigger than it needs to be.
Yep. So now I want to then cut the Chloraloid out inside the drain body, but I want to cut it out all the way up to the sides of the drain body.
And just like in a real life job, you'd like to drop this down the pipe. If
Yeah, you want to drop it. You want to drop it down the pipe
or
so
the wall
so it
cavity.
plugs it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, you'd have a plug down there so
Right.
nothing's going to fall down in there. Okay. Okay. See, I have a little bit of excess right there. I want to make sure that I have all of it out. A good sharp knife, so you're not gouging it out.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, this is bonded down to the lower drain body within the case of Noble Sealant 150.
Bonded down lower drain body. Now, you do not want to put sealant on the top.
Okay.
Okay.
And why is that?
You're going to plug up your weep holes. So your standard clamping ring drains have weep holes in them plus weep channels.
Okay.
If I put sealant on the top, I'm going to plug those weep channels and those weep holes up. And then the system is going to have a hard time drying out.
Right.
Or weeping.
Once the water gets through our mortar bed over the top of this, it's got to be able to drain out of those weep holes to evacuate.
That's why it's called a water in, water out system.
Okay.
Here.
All right.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll place my clamping ring on. Okay. Make sure my bolts are out far enough. Okay. And then from there, I'll snug it up. Don't need to be too overly tight. Make sure that.
The question was, is Noble Weld 100 versus Noble Sealant 150, is there an advantage? I'm going to say there's not really necessarily an advantage. It's kind of a personal preference.
Yeah.
Dave and I probably both use maybe more Noble Weld 100 than the 150, primarily because of the speed of it.
Yeah.
But either one is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, with Noble Weld 100, you know, it's almost an instantaneous weld.
Right. If you're certainly, the Noble Weld 100 is a solvent-based product. So if you're sensitive to that, the Noble Sealant 150 is going to be a better choice than the 100. But the Noble Weld 100, it's fast and strong and easy.
Right. So caution with Noble sealants. Noble 150 is the only sealant that's recommended to use on Chloraloid or PVC, unbondable membrane.
Right.
The 250 sealant will fail on the bond or on the unbondable membrane.
Yes.
It's used for our bondable membranes only that has a fleece.
Right. Okay. It's got to kind of key into that CPE.
So be careful with that.
Okay.
So now that I have my drain tied in, clamping ring, I'm ready to go ahead and treat the curb.
You got to do something with that jam there.
Yeah, with the outside corners or dam corners, however you want to talk. So as you can see, they'll just be placed right here. So again, I'll get my Noble Weld 100
or 150.
Or 150. I'll treat the spot where the corner is going to go. I'll put some on both sides just to make sure that they're basically primed.
Yep.
Okay.
Just slide it into place.
Slide into place. Yep.
Okay. And that really is fast. I mean, it's
fast. It takes a couple seconds.
Yep.
But then she'll weld right in. Just give it a 10, 15 seconds, and
Yep.
just want to make sure that you get it down tight.
Okay.
Even if you're doing the 150, you want to make sure that you have 100% coverage under there too,
Yep.
and you tool it in.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it just kind of gets tackier as it goes.
It's tacky as it goes. Now,
Okay.
I've got one on the inside. I'll also put one on the outside.
So when this is all said and done, you'll have 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside of the curb, so that the
That's
whole
correct.
jam is basically protected all the way to the outside drop edge.
I assure that I have my
Yep.
3 inches above my curb.
Okay, and if you were doing this with PVC, you'd be using a PVC corner as
Correct.
opposed
We
to
have
the
PVC corners too that you would use a PVC cement with. Yep, get the right way here.
Okay, that looks like it wraps that up pretty good.
Yeah, wrap it around. If you have a dog ear out here, you
Yep,
got
you can cut it off
or cut it off too. Yep. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll do the other side real quickly, so we complete the pan installation. If you get a little 100 on the Chloraloid, don't worry about it. It'll just evaporate, dry off. You haven't compromised it.
Okay. So the way this is being constructed right now, there's absolutely no holes in this thing other than at the drain and possibly at the jam there. And the drain has been fastened, or the membrane has been fastened down to the drain to seal that off, and you're basically taking care of the jam with the corners here.
Yep.
So there really is no place for this thing to leak.
Right.
Now the Chloraloid comes in a couple of different sizes, 4, 5, and 6 foot wide, by basically various lengths depending on the size of the roll.
Size of the roll. Correct.
Okay, and you just cut it to size.
So you'll want to always pick this, the width out according to the size of the shower to make sure that you have enough to wrap up, 3 inches above the curb,
Right.
over the curb, and out to the.
Which again is all code. It has the Uniform Plumbing Code emblem on it, as well as the file number where you can find it if you need to verify it. It's file number 3046. And of course the ASTM D4068 standard, which is for CPE, or 4551 would be the standard for PVC. That was some worthless information there.
Yeah. Again, just takes a few seconds.
Okay.
For it to cure.
Get this out of your way before we
get that out of my way
tip
before
it
I
over.
spill it down the drain. Okay.
Okay, that looks pretty
Yeah,
well
go
sealed
back,
up.
double check, make sure everything is sealed properly. Okay. At this point, it's ready for a flood test.
Okay.
Yep. So,
And flood test is recommended by the plumbing code and by us.
yes, and by us, because if there's a failure, it's a lot easier to fix it now than it would be to get a call from the customer.
Yeah.
Say, hey, my shower's leaking. You got to tear the whole thing out, redo it.
To find out something stupid like you forgot
yeah.
to tighten the
If you
clamping
don't
ring
flood
down.
test it, you might want to change your phone number.
Yeah. In most cases, it's a 24-hour flood test or overnight.
Overnight, yeah,
But if you
24 hour
don't
overnight.
want to do that,
Yeah.
at least test it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, this is looking good. I think we're pretty well set with that. Now, of course, we still got to address the curb issue here. Now, drain options here. I don't know whether we're on track with that or whether that's coming up. I don't want to derail you.
We can talk about that. So, we have your standard strainer.
Lost.
It was right here.
Probably tiled over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, standard strainer. Sorry.
Right where we left.
Yeah, right where we left it. So your standard strainer, whether they're square, round, tile top, they could be plastic with a stainless steel top on. There's all different types of styles that are used with this.
And that
okay?
just gets screwed down into
yeah,
whatever.
they just get screwed down in there. You'll just screw it down to your desired height of your mortar bed.
Right. So generally, you look at
they
about an inch and
always-
a half. And,
Yep.
and that just kind of adjusts up and down to your
Just up and
finished
down.
elevation.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
All right.
But there is another option for this too. So with the popularity of linear drains out there,
Right.
Noble has the Solutions linear drain, which can be used as a linear strainer.
Okay.
We'll just go ahead and we'll remove this clamping ring off of that and use our Solutions adapter ring.
Which fits most
which fits.
drained 4-inch bolt patterns?
That's correct. It fits.
Okay.
As you can see,
Okay. So it doesn't have the threads.
doesn't have threads in it. Nope.
You lost a bolt
Yep,
there.
lost a bolt there. Again, a clamp clips right in, same as the other.
Okay.
Snug it down. And we still have a mechanical seal with that too.
Right.
Okay. So the solution is drained. In this case, we're using a 24-inch
Okay.
because of the size of the shower. We have 24-inch all the way up to 60-inch
Okay.
linear drains. So as you can see, it's an ABS body. It's going to be a friction fit to the adapter ring.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to slide it in,
Okay.
get it to the desired height that you want for your mortar bed, level it, make sure it's level, and then from there you'll pour your mortar bed to that.
Okay. So it's
Okay.
really a replacement strainer for all
It's
purposes.
a replacement strainer. You'll do a single slope both ways, or the drain could be towards the end, depending on where you want to place that
Okay.
strainer.
So
So-
yep. So the
but-
mud's going right over
yep.
top of the pan here.
But the system, as far as the pre-slope and the pan liner, you're going to still want to keep the multi-slope
Right.
pre-slope underneath there for
Right.
the system to weep out properly.
Right.
So that's an option for you.
Okay.
Today we're going to go ahead and do the standard clamping ring drain.
You got that tightened back down. Yeah.
So our next step is going to be get this
To
off
get
here.
that strainer off.
Yeah.
Here.
Get that clamping ring back on.
And again, I'm just going to reiterate that we're not putting any sealant underneath the clamping ring there, so we're not plugging off those weep holes.
Exactly. Yep. As you can see, all my weep holes are clear.
Yep.
Okay. If you get some sealant oozing out from under the pan into the weep holes, just take something.
Yep.
And clean those out. Okay. So got that tightened back up.
Okay.
Okay. From here, I'm going to get ready for my backer board.
Okay.
But before I put my backer board in, since I'm going to be using a cement backer board CPU backer board, you're going to need to have a vapor barrier behind that. Get the old school
Up the wall.
up behind the wall to the whole tile assembly
Right.
there. So first of all, I'm going to be using just a 15-pound felt, kind of old school way.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'd have tall walls here. I'll run
Yep.
that all the way up, but I'm going to put that 15-pound felt up on the other side so you guys can see. You see the top. I'm going to overlap that a couple inches
Yep.
into the pan. Okay. All right.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to staple that back up. And where'd the stapler
Wherever
go?
you put the stapler. There,
Yeah, it is.
there it is.
Too many things to work with here today.
And then you could use 6-mil polyethylene or
Yeah, exactly.
a couple of
Run
different
that
options
right
here
up to
for a
the top,
vapor retarder.
Right up the top, yeah. I don't want to put staples too far down. That's
Yep.
all. You can leave it flopped like that. That's all right. The backer board's
Or it's
going
going to hold that in
to
place.
hold it
anyhow.
in. That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and I'll put a piece in the back here. All right, just overlap it there.
And again, these membranes would be covered under the ANSI standards.
Yep.
Okay.
And my last piece here, just overlap that. Want to make sure that you do overlap your pieces as it goes in.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now you want some board here? Are you ready for that?
So
Or
I'm ready for board.
okay. Looks like you've got this pre-screwed for.
Yeah, just to save
for
time,
time.
I've got my screws in it. We're missing a screw there, but that's all right. I just have a few screws in it to hold it up for demonstration purposes there. Okay.
And again, those screws are up above the pan,
Up
basically.
above the pan, yes. One. Okay. Good enough for now. Holding it there. Now, with the cement backer board, okay, you can hang the cement backer board down into the mortar bed. In this case, see, I've got about 3/4 of an inch hanging down in the mortar bed.
A true cement board.
True cement board. That's correct.
Yep. So we're not doing that with a gypsum core board or.
No, they're either fiber cement boards, gypsum core boards. You have to keep that up out of the mortar bed.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to be just a sponge
Right.
and soak up the moisture. But with cement board, we're fine.
So it depends on the board you're using and kind of how you do the
Yeah.
wall detail.
Exactly.
Now, if you wanted to leave this elevated a 1/4 inch, you certainly could do that as well.
You could. But with this, the mortar bed is actually going to hold the bottom of the cement board in place.
So it locks it in.
So it's going to lock that in.
Okay.
All right. Okay. From there, we're ready to treat the curb before we pour a mortar bed. A couple different ways you can do the curb. You can do it with mud.
Yep.
If you're going to do it with mud, you're going to have to use a metal lap.
Diamond mesh lap.
Diamond lap. Yep. You know, it's sharp, so you have to be careful with it. You know, you're going to bend it. You're going to, you know, deform over the curb. You know, you're going to put mud in it and throw your mud out
So you've
and do a mud curb. Yep.
Okay.
And that's just going to sit in there like that. And then you can do your mortar bed after that.
Okay.
Or you can use Noble's curb overlay. Just high compression foam with a coating.
Same idea.
Same idea on that. Yep. You can see it. It's a form to go over a 2x4 and the membrane.
Right.
Okay. Very easy to install. Cut it for the length you want. You're going to take modified thin set, which I have some pre-done here. You're just going to load it up inside.
So now I'm already wondering whether when you measured that you had the board in place or not.
Pardon?
I said I'm already wondering is when you cut that curb whether you had the board in place on the wall or not, or whether it's going to be an inch too long.
I cut it.
You're wondering that now too, aren't you?
Now's the time to find out. We'll see.
So you're just basically, buttering the inside of that thing,
Yeah,
simply filling the capillary
inside out.
space.
Exactly. Yep. Fill in the space. I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw some on the top here.
So you don't need a lot in there. Just
You don't need a lot. Now, of course, the modified thin set's not going to bond to the Chloraloid. You're basically just using it as a filler to make a solid curb.
Oh, look at that.
And then just push that over it. There.
So that really takes the place of that lath.
It takes place of that lath.
Finished
Yep.
product. You didn't
Nice
cut
and-
your hands.
Yep.
You can slope it slightly inside if you want to.
Slope it slightly inside and let it cure up. That's ready for tile.
Okay. Now, as far as fasteners, we're driving some 16Ds on the inside of this curb into that wood curb.
Nope, you're not going to do that.
Okay.
You do not want to put any fasteners on the curb itself, maybe at the very bottom of the dry space. That would be it.
On the outside.
That's a common mistake that I see all the time with somebody saying, I'm going to use backer board to make my curb. And they'll nail or screw right through the pan liner.
Right.
Well, you just poked a bunch of holes in your raincoat there. So
Right. So really the mud or the mortar is going to be holding this inside edge in.
the mortar's
Same
going
as
to be
with the
holding.
board.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and take my strainer. Okay. I'm going to get it at the desired height that I want. Okay. Once I've established the desired height that I want, and to save time, I've already marked out my screep marks
Right.
to screep my mortar. So go ahead and we'll screw this down. And then I'm going to put my positive weep protector. I can either use gravel at the grab the clamping ring. So with the weep holes in the channels that are in the clamping ring, you have to protect them. If you don't, you can just pack mud around it, the system isn't going to weep out properly.
Right.
So the most common way is a pea gravel.
So you really need some airspace in there.
Airspace there, so the water hits that pea gravel, then it'll dissipate around that clamping ring and dry out. Do not use crushed tile. It's like throwing glass into your pan. That's not a good idea. So cut the pan. But I see guys do that all the time. Seen that before. Pea gravel or use Noble's positive weep protector.
Yep.
Okay. Just plastic, corrugated. It has weep channels built into it. Okay. So you just basically stick that around the clamping ring drain, and now that area is protected.
That keeps the water so it can flow underneath it here easily.
Yep.
If you step on it, you're not poking a hole in the membrane. You're not out in the parking lot trying to find rocks.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's a critical component of this system with the pre-slope and the weep protector. Water is going to go through that mortar bed, hit that pre-slope, go through, hit the weep protector. It's going to be able to drain into the
Right.
clamping ring
Yep.
holes.
Okay.
Right. So now we're ready for our final slope.
All right.
Okay. All right. So I've got some sand mortar mix. I got a 4-to-1 sand to Portland cement mortar mix.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get my outer perimeter established first.
Just for the camera, Dave, well, you grab a handful of that and kind of hold it up so people kind of see what it is you got and a little bit of the workability and how wet it is or isn't.
So I want it to clump up like a ball
Okay.
and hold together.
Right.
I
But
don't want it too wet.
it crumbles pretty
It
easily.
crumbles, yeah. Don't want it too wet. Then it's hard. Number one, it compacts it too much. And the thing is, you don't want to compact the sand mortar mix too much anyways. You want this to stay fairly loose.
Just tamp it firmly, but
Yeah, you tamp it too much, it'll close up the cells in it, and water is not going to leak through it as easy.
because you really do want the water to be able to drain through this.
You want the water to drain through it.
Okay.
I'm just going to go ahead and establish my height.
Kind of a tight little spot in here.
It is a tight spot to do it. Yep. Now some guys will just add screech sticks around the edge too, and pull them later.
Yep.
You know, different methods. I just usually use my mag and establish my height on my level line. For time purposes, I'll do half of this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, like I said, you know, you could use screed sticks, or there's some aftermarket products that are available, or
Correct.
you know, kind of any way you want to get there. Probably, you know, if you're going to use an actual stick, you'd be sure you want to pull that out. Don't leave it in there.
That's correct. Okay. See that I taped up my drain, so I keep my drain strainer clean. Okay. Now, got some of the outside perimeter done. I'll go ahead and then create a slope. Okay. I'll fill in between. Establish my corners.
Right. So you're using the drain
Yeah.
as your elevation line, and you have the.
So yeah. So when I'm done, then with the mortar bed, I'll go ahead and I'll screw the drain up to the desired height that I need for the thickness of the tile that I need on that.
Yep.
All right. Now I just set the drain for the height of my mortar bed and use that to screed off of. Okay. Did the corners. I'll go ahead and maybe take a shorter one here. Do the sides. You know.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
So
the general idea there.
You get the general idea of that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're basically just getting that 1/4 inch per foot slope into there.
Yep. I have the 1/4 inch per foot slope on the dry area or on the primary.
Yep. Okay.
So all right.
That'll work.
You get the general idea of that.
I think that most people are going to understand what we're doing there.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving down the line here.
Okay.
We got a couple other mock-ups to try to get in here. Get some of the stuff out of your way as we pile it all up. All right.
Okay.
All right. Looking here, this is kind of a familiar looking thing, I think, for anybody that's ever been certainly on a commercial job where in a lot of cases the plumber might have set the drain, the tile guy shows up to do the mud bed, and point A doesn't line up with point B, and we ended up with this void
The
to try
situation
to
here,
transition down into that drain.
So you're going to use a topical applied membrane, we're going to call this a thin bed method.
Okay.
Right? Thin bed method is topical applied membrane to the top of your mortar bed or your pre-made bases.
Yep.
And the tile is applied directly to that bondable membrane.
Okay, so you're using,
Topical
instead of
applied.
using a chloraloid type of liner, we're going to be using
Correct. Yep.
surface applied 118 by 10 membrane.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
But we have a standard clamping ring drain already installed, a 3-piece standard clamping ring drain that you have to have a mortar bed around to accommodate that because of the height of the strainer, the height of the clamping ring.
Right. I know a lot of those clamping ring drains, if you bottom out the strainer and it only goes down to 3/4 of an inch, which doesn't necessarily align with the tile without the divot.
Right. So in the industry, this is commonly known as the divot method.
Right.
Right. We create a divot around the drain to be able to adapt to the drain body to the top of the clamping ring drain. Okay. To create that divot, we have the Nobleflex drain flashing foam tool. Okay. Which matches up with whatever desired Nobleflex drain flashing that you want to use. As you
Several
can see,
sizes available.
yeah, something like you see that it'll adapt from the top of the drain to the top of the mortar bed with the drain flashing. Okay. We have 3/4, 1.125 inches, 1.75 inches, and 2-inch depth drain flashings available. Okay. So to create the divot, you'll get the appropriate foam tool for the flashing that you're using. You'll just drop that on top of the drain. Okay. And then you'll hold that, make the drains level, you'll hold in place, and then you will float your mortar bed to the top of the foam tool.
So it's a form.
It's a form. That's what it is. Once you've put your mortar bed in, 1/4 inch per foot slope, you'll pull that out. Creates that divot.
Okay. So now the Nobleflex will fit right in there perfect.
Now Nobleflex will fit right in there perfect. Okay. You'll let that mortar bed cure up, and it's ready to apply the Nobleflex drain flashing and your topical applied membrane after it's cured.
So you would bond that to the lower drain body, just like we did before with,
that's correct,
ideally with the Noble Seal 150,
with 150,
just to make sure that it's sealed up tight there. Our clamping ring goes on top of it, which has been kind of predetermined by the thickness of the mortar bed. So we're good to go.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to install the Nobleflex drain flashing and TS membrane on this.
Okay.
So first of all, again, I'm going to want to use my 250. In this case, you can use 250 or 150 sealant because of the bondable fleece membrane. I do have some 250 sealant here. It's a low VOC sealant, the 250. It's a moisture cure sealant too. So with this sealant, you can immediately flood test with.
Right.
Where the 150, you should wait overnight. So again, a bead of sealant, continuous bead. I'm going to put modified thin set on my base. You can either use our EXT glue on the base or modified thin set.
Okay.
I'm just going to go ahead and put modified thin set on the base using a 1/4 inch V-notch trowel.
Okay, so we're just, basically any latex modified thin set mortar.
Any of the ANSI standard latex modified thin set, that's correct.
Okay.
Now directional trowel it. Now if you got a large mortar bed, you'd maybe just want to do the area only where the Nobleflex drain flashing is, and then after you install the drain flashing, continue on for the rest of it. Okay. Doesn't matter if you get some inside the divot or not. It doesn't really matter there. You're going to be filling that one with a dry pack mortar as it is. Okay. All right. Now that I got my modified thin set on and I got my sealant on, I'm ready to install my drain flashing. Okay. Place the drain flashing in place. I'll take my margin trowel. I'll tool the drain flashing into the modified thin set.
So you're basically embedding it.
Embedding it.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know she left the bolt heads in the drain again, so you don't lose them.
Yep. And that way I can find the holes too. Again, just like we did with the Chloraloid, I'll put an X on the top of the bolts.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll cut out
Cut out
where
that
the grain
center,
body. Yep,
just like I did before.
just like I did before. Again, make sure that I cut all of it out.
Yep, but don't stick your hands in the wet thin set.
Yep, yep. Okay. All right.
Okay.
From there, I'll go ahead and I'll place a clamping ring on this. My bolts are out far enough. Yeah.
Missed by a smudge.
Just
Or
a
is it
smudge,
smidge.
yep.
It is smudge or smidge.
There we
Give
go.
it that turn, tighten down like normal.
Yep. Okay. So the Nobleflex drain flashing installation is complete.
Okay.
From here, I'm ready to apply my membrane
Okay.
to the top of my mortar bed.
Okay.
Now, I've got that piece of TS membrane. Okay. I'm using TS in this case. So what I'm going to do is bond the TS down to the mortar bed.
Mm-hmm.
I pre-cut the hole. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to put a bead of 250 on this and tie this in. Okay. Sure I have enough on it.
Bead. Yep.
Okay, I want 100% coverage on that. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to tool the whole thing in, right? Bond it into
I would
the,
imagine on a large job, we're gonna do this with probably a roller,
you can do it with a roller, you can, and
flat side of a trowel.
see if I got it, my continuous.
I don't know if that shows up on camera now. I think once you get out of the lean,
Yeah.
it'll show up there. You can kind of see the white bead coming all the way out to make sure we got a good tight seal all the way around that. To make
Yep.
sure it's sealed up tight.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Take the excess and just kind of wipe it down the side of here because not worried about the bondable fleece anymore inside the, because that's going to be dry pack mortar down there. Okay. Okay. Strainer. And
So
then
that would essentially flush out to my tile height.
Yep, and then dry pack mortar after the weed protector is installed again.
A little help there. Okay.
And then just pack it with dry pack mortar.
So you fill that void with dry pack.
Fill that void, yep.
You know, and I would imagine in real world you would have given the Nobleflex 250 a little bit of time to dry there.
You don't really have to with the 250.
Okay.
It's like I said, moisture cure, and then you're just going to want to make sure that it's a nice, smooth transition around the drain. Okay. All right. Just save time. We'll just do portion of it, but you'll complete that all the way around there. Once that's cured up, it's ready for tile.
So any water gets in there, it basically drains right underneath the PWT or the positive weed protector, and
drain down
good to go.
weed protect. Yep, correct.
Okay.
Okay. That's what they call a divot method, using a standard clamping ring drain.
Right.
So so we have a little what we call the Noble SD drain flashing SD.
Right.
Okay. Basically, it puts the mortar bed on the drain flashing already.
Okay.
So it eliminates the foam tool.
Okay.
So basically, you'll put that down first, glue this down with thinset.
Mud to it.
And mud to it.
Okay.
So it just leaves it one step.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And it comes in all the sizes too. That
Yep.
we talked about
And
before.
commercially, a plumber could do that, leave it in, and the tile guy can show up and mud to it, and
He can.
we're
Yep.
not waiting on one trade to the other.
So the plumber has made the tie-in.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So I know we run a little short on time here. Want to talk about stay with the thin bed methods and mortar beds. So Noble has come up with what we call our thin bed drain, our Freestyle thin bed drain. Okay. It's a PVC. It's a 1/2 inch profile. It has a clamping ring to it. We know the clamping ring is bulletproof.
Yep.
Now, unlike the bondable flange, drains that are out there.
Yep.
Has internal weep protection in it. So a couple of ways of installing that. If you want to install that directly down to the substrate, it only has a 1/2-inch profile, and there are pre-manufactured muds that
So go
from
down to
0
the edge. Yep.
2 inch. Yes,
Yep.
right.
Okay.
Especially when you're trying to do a wheelchair accessible shower.
Yep.
Or if you're going to do a traditional dry pack mortar, keep it an 1.5 inch thickness. You're going to use our Noble Freestyle thin bed full mortar bed adapter.
Okay.
Basically, it's a shim that goes underneath the drain, drops down, and then the screws are supplied with it. And we'll screw that down.
So if you want to do it with a full mortar bed, it's just lifting the drain up to accommodate the additional mortar bed thickness.
We'll just throw a couple screws in it just so you get the idea of that. Okay.
Okay.
From there, I'll go ahead and I'll directly pour the mortar bed to the drain at a 1/4 inch per foot thickness,
Okay.
and alleviates the use of the Nobleflex drain flashing.
We've gone from a divot method to basically we're bringing the drain to my final elevation.
Now we have a full thin bed method
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
Now with the popularity of linear drains,
Yep.
we have the Noble Freestyle linear drain.
Okay.
Again, PVC drain body, 1.25 inch tall, has a clamping ring, again bulletproof. Okay.
Yep.
Welded pipe to that, not a Fernco. As you can see, we directly dropped it onto the substrate.
Okay.
Make sure it's level, flat, level substrate.
Yep.
And then from there, we'll go ahead and pour our 1/4 inch single slope
Right.
from the curb or wherever you desire to put the drain, but a single slope 1/4 inch per foot, and then topically apply the membrane as you saw over there in the Divot Method, and clamp it directly into the linear drain.
And one thing I don't recall whether we started out with this or not, but for a shower area or a mortar bed application that's less than 65 square feet, the requirements for wire reinforcing.
Okay, less than 65 square feet, we don't need that.
Okay, which per tile counselor
Okay,
and
yep.
okay.
Over 65 feet, we're going to need a wire
like
reinforcement.
2x2 welded wire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Not chicken wire.
Not chicken wire. Yeah.
Not chicken wire. Chicken wires for chickens.
Chicken wire for chickens.
Okay. Okay.
But now also with our linear drain, you can use the solutions drain in that method too. Now this would be more of a bonding with our sealant to the drain.
Okay.
We have a cradle for that. That
So
would
kind of create.
just be good. Create that 1.25 inch height and then slope from there.
Right.
So it's an alternative to the clamping drain.
Right. Okay. All right. I think we covered everything, didn't we?
I think we covered all the methods on the mud.
Okay, I'm looking at the live audience. They're not saying we forgot anything. Yeah, neither one of them.
Anyway, so I know we kind of rushed through the end, last portion of this a little bit. So if you got any questions, feel free to ask. I think we covered the basics on this.
Yep.
In an hour, there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, again, thank you for joining us today. We'll be doing one of these in the future at some point. We're going to be giving something away. If you have any ideas for a future webinar, let us know. We've done a few in the past. We're open to suggestions. We would welcome them. I mean, we just maybe change the name of it to Two Guys Talking, and we'll talk about fishing or something.
Fishing or something like that. Yeah.
Anyhow, we're going to be giving away some shower pan liner, a pro slope, the drain, basically everything you would need to do a full mortar bed shower.
Let you draw.
You want me to draw? See,
It'll be your fault.
Shut my eyes and draw.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm drawing this one. I'm struggling how you pronounce this.
I've got my glasses on. So
It could be Rupesh Pudi with Chris Stone in Roseville Park, New Jersey. I'll pawn that off on somebody to see whether they got a better pronunciation. You're going with what I said. Okay. Congratulations on that. We will be getting in touch with you or get in touch with us and let us know what kind of a strainer you would like for your shower drain. We have some different finishes available, including flat black, which is kind of the designer new color we got there. Dave actually happens to have one.
Have a flat black.
We have the
So-
chrome, we have the brushed nickel, we have several different finishes available, so let us know what it is you'd like. I think we've got a wrap here. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time.